Hello, everyone. Welcome. Webinar night, visa night. How's everybody doing? I'm feeling great. Mana, long day?
Great. Long day.
Long day. Doing what? Helping fellow Canadians.
Helping fellow Canadians.
I hope everyone's having a great night. We're here tonight to talk about
Employment visas.
how exciting.
We're gonna try to make it exciting, I
Let's
guess.
try. Let's try. Because anything about moving to the US, we can make it exciting.
That's right.
I mean,
But
we did an estate planning webinar and we laughed most of the night. So, we got to deal with the topics that we're dealing with, but that doesn't mean we can't make them awesome. So welcome everyone tonight. We've got quite a few people registered for tonight, and it's awesome to see. I know that there's a lot of interest, especially during these times with Canadians looking to make the move to the US. It's unprecedented times in Canada, and people are looking to go to Europe. I think US is the #1 destination. So let's talk a little bit about us and why we're here tonight and a bit of our story. Mena, do you want to take it away, baby?
Sure, I'll take it away. So we've been here for 7 years now. We live in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and we are from Bolton, Ontario. So that was a big change
Exciting city.
and exciting, yeah.
Yeah.
And we moved down here, like I said, 7 years ago because we came on a girls' trip and we absolutely loved it. And then we saw, the business opportunities, educational opportunities, the lifestyle differences, and decided to make a change. So it's been a long journey. Ended up going to law school in Florida, becoming Florida Bar, opening our own firm, and now we help Canadians do the same.
Yes. And we're happy to be here tonight. We've met so many wonderful people. So let's get started because we got a lot of ground to cover, a lot of different options that are available. So I'm going to take the easy one because Mena's the immigration attorney and I'm mother at law. So I support her. I help run the business, but ultimately she's the expert here tonight. So I'm going to talk about TN visa. T as in Tom, N as in Nancy. We get a ton of clients looking to do TN visas. We've helped a lot of them make their way through that. The TN visa is a visa that's only available to Canadians and to Mexican citizens. Okay, it doesn't matter the country of your birth, it matters on your citizenship. And basically what happens is the US government puts out a list of professions based on certain criteria that maybe they're looking or there's a shortfall or something like that. And if you qualify, if you meet the criteria of one of those professions, then you could come to us. All you need from your employer is an offer letter. Oftentimes, the difficult part with the TN visa is the employer, the American employer, doesn't understand the TN visa. They think they have to sponsor you. And that's the hardest part, to let them know that there is no sponsorship needed. It's just an offer letter. And then that offer letter, along with a bunch of other things that Mena and her team will do for you, they'll package it all together, guide you through, help you prepare for the interview, book your interview at the border. And ultimately, the final stage is you appear at the border with the package that we've provided for you. They interview you and away you go. TN visa is good for a maximum of 3 years, depending on what your employer puts on your offer letter. And you are eligible to live and work in the United States. Your spouse can join you. Their visa is called a TD visa. However, they are not eligible to work in the United States. Your dependents can also join you. They can go to school. They wouldn't be able to work either. So Mena, what are some of the, how do I find out if I'm on the TN list? How do I
Yeah,
know?
so you can do a simple search. The TN is under what's called the USMCA. So you can look up the USMCA professions list and you can find out exactly what professions are there and what are not. And then if you're not on that list though, I encourage you not to go for this visa. Because a lot of people say, well, I do this. Is there some way that we can make it work? Technically not. And we don't want to lead you down that path and then it doesn't work out for you. So only apply for this visa if you're on the list. It's best to make sure that you are prepared when you go to the border. And what I mean by that is you need to have an attorney cover letter. You need to make sure you have all your documents reviewed. They're very, very nitpicky when it comes to this visa category. If there's just the slightest thing wrong, then they'll deny you. So you don't want to have reason for that to happen to you. So it's best to contact us and have us put together the package for you and set you up properly.
There's one item on the list that's called management consultant.
That's a
And
hit and a miss.
sometimes, yeah, people try to massage it to try to make it fit. But you know, if it's not clear cut and you're trying to make it work, there's a good chance it may not work. Some of them are really clear cut. It tells you, you know, what education you need, what experience you need in that category. And if you meet that category and the job offer meets that category and all the supporting material meets that category, you should have no issue. So that's the TN visa. We're also going to ask, we're going to save some time at the end for some questions and answers. Obviously, we can't get to everyone, but let us go through the different categories and we'll probably answer some of your questions as we go through. And then at the end, we'll have some time for question and answer. Is there anything else about the TN? I think it's pretty straightforward. You can continue to renew it.
Yeah, the only thing is that it doesn't lead to a green card. So if
Right.
you're going on TN, you're going to be on TN forever unless you go into another pathway that leads to a green card.
Yeah, and sometimes husband and wife come, if each of you want to work and you each qualify for a TN visa, you'd have to get your own visa. And before it expires, you would have to reapply, exit, come back in through one of the borders. So the TN visa is good for a temporary fix.
Yes, and the pitfalls, like you mentioned, is that your spouse cannot work. And another is that if you do get fired or laid off, you have 30 days to exit the United States. So that's another thing that's concerning to some people and that you should be aware of.
And here's some of the things I've heard from some of the clients that have called. They'll come in on a TN visa. Their spouse will open a business. If that spousal business qualifies for an E2, they're like, can I just flip my TN to an E2? There's no such thing as flipping or, you know, moving one into another. So let's say the husband has a TN, wife opens a business, it qualifies for E2. She would be the principal applicant. The spouse would then get an open work permit. And once that happens, once you go into Canada and apply for the E2 and have the interview, then you would be re-entering the United States under E2 and E2 spousal status, and the TN will no longer apply.
Right,
Okay.
so you have to go through the interview process in order to go on E2.
Right. And that happens with everything. If you're in under one status and then something changes, you have to exit and re-enter most of the time under your new status, and you have to qualify for the new status independently of the visa that you're currently on. Okay, so that's the TN. We hear a lot about that. Another one that's really popular and a lot of people around the US are using is the H-1B visa. So Mena, how does that work?
Sure. So H-1B, there's certain eligibility, certain requirements. Okay, so let's talk first about that. Let's talk about the employee first. So what does the employee have to have? The employee has to have a bachelor's degree or higher. So if you have less than that level of education, you won't qualify. The job has to be in a specialty occupation. So there are lists of occupations that are considered to be specialized, specialty occupations. It has to be one of those. The degree has to be directly related to the job. So you can't be, you can't have a degree in business, for example, and be applying to be a surgeon.
Right.
It has to match. And also last thing to note is that your foreign degree has to have US equivalency. So that's another important factor.
So if I have a foreign degree, I have to get it converted into
You have to do an
US.
equivalency to make
Right.
sure that it's on the same level as the US system.
Okay.
The employer, there has to be obviously a valid employer-employee relationship. So you actually have to be consider to work there. Like we said, it has to be a specialty occupation. The employer will have to go through the labor condition application. So they'll actually have to submit some documents to say, hey, I want to be able to hire this person with the Department of Labor. And they're looking really for compliance with wage and working conditions in that application.
Right, it
And
has to be a prevailing wage.
I was just gonna say that last piece of it. There, it has to be that you're receiving a prevailing wage, which means you're receiving the norm for that position and that title. You can't be totally underpaid or completely overpaid. It has to make sense, right?
Okay,
Um, Now typically the H-1B is good for up to 6 years. So it's good initially it's good for 3, and then you can extend it for an additional 3 for a total of 6 years. There is a cap, so that means that they only issue a certain amount of H-1Bs every year. And what does that mean? That means that you'll have to participate in a lottery system. Okay, so every year in March, they you would put in your application and you would hope to be selected. 20,000 of the visas that they're going to issue are held exclusively for those holding a US master's degree or higher. So there's out of the 65,000 visas that they're going to issue in this category, 20,000 are for a US master's degree or higher. So that's a set aside. Now, what's the timeline on this? So you would apply, your employer would apply for the labor certification. If that's approved, they would enroll you in the lottery. If you happen to get selected in the lottery in March, then they would go forward and process the H-1B petition, which is a 3 to 6 month process, typically taking you to the start date of October 1st. So anybody who's approved for an H-1B would not be able to begin work before October 1st of that year. There is an
so
option
what
to
is a
expedite.
labor certification, Mena? What does that
I
mean?
explained it a moment ago.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. It's they want to make sure that the wage and the working conditions are appropriate.
Okay,
So you are able to do premium processing and have that a decision rendered in 15 calendar days as well. So, but however, no matter what, if it's an approval, you cannot start work before October 1st. And then once you're in that position, H-1B is a dual intent type of visa, which means your employer could then sponsor you for a green card from there. It does take a couple of years from that point, but there's always that option. And that's H-1B.
H-1B is difficult to get the employer to actually want to hire you under that category.
Any of these types of visas that are going to lead to a green card is going to be very difficult to get an employer to do.
Yeah,
A lot of time and a lot of costs associated to these visas.
yeah, and sometimes they'll do it if they're desperate for an employee in a certain area, maybe a remote area, where they cannot, they truly cannot find anybody of that talent to do that type of position. And the only way that they can get someone to live in this remote area and, to do that job is to offer the H-1B and offer the opportunity to get a green card. And then, professionals will be more willing because they know at the end of it, they're getting a green card. So it's difficult to get. And you have to win the lottery. I mean, there's a lot of loopholes and it takes time, right? That's the hardest part of it. Anything else about the H-1B that we should know?
Another reason that an employer might want to do that for you is because they want to retain talent. So if they do this for you, you have to kind of count that you're going to be tied to that employer for a number of years. So that's another reason why some people go with EB5 or E2 and want to do their own thing, because they don't want to be tied to the employer for all these years, right?
Right.
So that's another thing to consider. It's a benefit for the employer because they get a loyal employee. Not so great sometimes for the employee to be tied down to that business.
Right. Okay, so that's H-1B. I'm going to talk a little bit about EB3. So the EB3 visa is a visa that's good for skilled and unskilled employees. And basically, in a nutshell, what you have to do is, number one, you must find an employer who's willing to sponsor you. Okay, so that employer would have to agree. Then the first step is a labor certification. So the employer has to prove to the US Department of Labor that they have tried to find someone to hire for that particular position, and they have not been successful. And that takes them at least 6 months to a year. They have to put job postings, they have to interview people, they have to truly show that they've tried their best and they cannot find someone for that position, okay? Once the certification has been complete, then they have to file for you, and they have to file to say, I want this immigrant, it's an immigrant petition for an alien worker. And then they have to provide evidence as to who you are and how you meet the qualifications of the job that they're looking for. Whether it's skilled or unskilled, you have to, if you're looking to do a job that you have no background in or no education in, that's not going to work. So it has to make sense in terms of why you're able to fill this position. That takes another 6 months to 1 year. And then what happens is, if that is successful, then you get a priority date. So the priority date says, okay, Mena, you've been approved for the EB3. The labor certification has happened. You've been approved for the position. Now we have to look at the visa bulletin. Here's your priority date. So let's say your priority date is today. That means
the date that you filed.
right. The priority date will be on your receipt notice. And then those visas aren't always readily available. And it depends on the country. Some countries have higher wait times than others. When your visa is available, then you could adjust status, or you could do consular processing. And that takes another 6 months to a year to get that completed before you can start to work. In a perfect scenario, you know, if everything, all the stars align, might take a year and a half. I've not really seen that. It can go 3 years or more. And again, with this type of visa, it's very difficult because the employer may not be willing to do that if they don't know who you are, and, you know, why would they waste time and energy and money? So oftentimes when we talk to clients who are doing an E2, for example, the spouse of the E2 gets an open work permit. We'll talk a little bit about that later. But if that spouse then goes to work for an employer, has a relationship with them, they start to realize that this person is very valuable to the company. And perhaps if that person were to leave, they wouldn't be able to fill those shoes. That employer may be willing at that point to sponsor because, you know, they're a great employee, everything's wonderful, let's sponsor them. So that might be a way to move towards a green card through employment as well. I think and then I'll talk about two things that come up a lot with visas. One is consular processing. You're going to hear that a lot. Consular processing means you wait in your country until your visa has been approved. And adjustment of status is you're in the US and you're basically saying to the US government, I've been approved, I'm waiting. If the visa is available, then you can adjust by staying in the United States without having to leave and come back in. And that process is called adjustment of status. It can only be done if the visa is available. So if the visa is not available and it's 5 years out, you can't adjust your status and wait it out for 5 years, right?
Again, when you say the visa is available, that means that based on the visa bulletin, the country of your birth and the visa you've applied for, is your priority date current? And if it is, then a green card is available in that category. If it's not, if they're still some years behind or they're not at that date yet, then that means the visa is not available to you and you would have to be in the US under another type of visa or wait in your country.
Right. So those two terms come up quite a bit, even with like EB5 and even with family sponsorship. Those two options seem to come up quite a bit. Okay, so did I do a good job?
I think so.
Okay, so that's EB3. I think, Mena, you're going to talk next about a really cool visa that a lot of people have gotten their green card with. And that is, drum roll.
EB2 NIW. EB2
What does that mean? What does that mean?
So EB2 is a visa on its own that requires sponsorship, usually from a larger type of corporation. However, what they've done is they've attached an NIW, National Interest Waiver, part of this type of petition. So EB2 is the work visa, NIW is the national interest waiver. So to meet the requirements for an EB2 on your own, you have to have at least a bachelor's degree, plus at least 5 or more years of experience, or a master's degree or higher with no years of experience. You meet that criteria,
Okay.
then you would be approved for the EB2 section of it. However, the second part of it, which doesn't require you to have a sponsor, doesn't require you to have an employer, you are petitioning for yourself. It's a self-petition. You're asking for your green card because it's a national interest waiver. Keywords, national interest. So you would have to prove that you are of.
National interest.
And what does that mean? That means that you have a proposed endeavor. So you put together a project or an idea that is going to benefit the United States on a national level. Now, what does that look like? Okay,
That
so
sounds like a huge mountain to climb.
yes, it does. However, it's not always the case. So they give extra points to those in STEM. So let's use the example of a doctor, someone who has a PhD. So if you're going to go the route of using your career, so let's say you have a PhD, let's use that as an example, and you have published books, you've been cited numerous times, you've won awards, you've been really recognized in your field, then you might put together some type of proposal or some type of idea of what you're going to do for the United States if they were to grant you your green card. So maybe there's some type of research you're going to conduct. There's something you're going to do here that's going to impact the United States, and it's something that the United States needs. So they give extra points to STEM because STEM is something that they want to attract. But it's not exclusive to STEM. There's lawyers that are doing it. There's different professions that are doing it. So your proposed endeavor has to be of national interest. And so you can do that through your career, or you can do that through entrepreneurship. So let's say you have an extensive career, you've won awards, you've been really recognized, you've been cited, maybe you wrote a book, and now you want to maybe you've been a business person your whole life and you have a high level of education, and now you want to do something similar in the United States, and it involves entrepreneurship. Then that would involve an extensive business plan. It would involve proving to the government through government data, through letters of recommendation, through citations, like I mentioned, that you are not only going to do something that's for the interest of the United States, but that you're in a position to advance the proposed endeavor. So not only does it have to be something that is going to benefit the United States, but the project has to be something that you're actually capable of moving forward. And usually the educational component and experience would speak to that. But that's typically what they're looking for. Now, there are different areas different industries that are under more pressure than others to prove this. For example, lawyers. Lawyers have more pressure on them to prove the endeavor and to show their national importance because there's so many lawyers in the United States. And the United States says, hey, maybe we don't need any more lawyers, right? But when it comes to doctors or someone in STEM, that's something that they're really looking for, and that could be an easy approval. So what does it look like then? Let's say you were born in Canada and you apply for this visa today. So September 25th, 2024 is your priority date. You apply 6 to 8 months. Typically, they give you an answer. It's yes or no, or a request for evidence. However, your priority date gets locked in. So if you end up with an approval on this visa, the visa bulletin right now is about 1.5 years backlogged for Canada, meaning that you would have to wait 1.5 years from your priority date to be able to either adjust your status, so you stay in the United States, 8 to 12 month process to adjust your status and get your green card, or you would have to attend an appointment at the consulate where you would interview for this visa, and if approved, then you would be granted your green card. So it's about a 2 to 2.5 year process. However, if you're born somewhere in a country like Mexico, what are the countries? Mexico, India, Philippines, and China, you're looking at very long waits for any visa that will lead to a green card for you would be a very, very long wait, aside from marrying a US citizen. That's the only way that it would not require a long wait.
So that sounds like a lot, but you and the firm help with bringing in experts who, can you talk a little bit about that? Because that makes me feel better, because I remember looking at it and thinking, this is overwhelming. How do I do this, right?
Well, the case by case, so we would assess you on a personal level. We'd take a look at your resume and we would have an in-depth consultation to discuss whether you would qualify for this visa or not. Let's say we determine that you qualify, you hire the firm. The next step would be to work with a third-party partner of ours that we use that would help you form either a professional plan or a business plan. They would purchase government data on your behalf to include in that plan. They would do a economic impact report to show your impact on the United States in terms of job creation, etc. They would also help with an expert opinion letter. So they would get someone who is an expert in that industry or that area to write an in-depth expert opinion letter for you. And they would also help to construct a resume. So
Because
you're
all of
not.
that is in the quest, right? To show that you're important. So they have access to all kinds of data to say, if this person under this category comes in, this is the impact they're going to have on the US. It's not left to the petitioner to try to figure that out, because that would never.
No, you want to have it professionally done. And
Yeah.
then, but what is left to the petitioner is to provide the evidence of, like I said, awards won, citations that maybe they've been published, work that they've done, things that we can put forward to show this person is extraordinary.
Right. And we would work in collaboration with you to get that all done. So the first step is, for us to review your resume to see if it's worthwhile. If Mena doesn't feel that it's something that's going to work for you, we're not going to waste anybody's time or money. She does an in-depth analysis to make sure that she feels that this is the right way forward for you, present you with the different options, and then you can decide from there what you want to do. Okay. So that's EB2 new. What about EB2 old? Oh, doesn't
They don't
exist.
have that.
It doesn't exist.
They got rid of
Okay.
that. It's too old.
It's too old. So there are other little sprinklings of different specialty categories for special employees here and there, but those are the main categories that we've shared with you tonight. Our goal tonight is to really try to educate, because we have so many people on the Facebook group. We're pretty active on, I'll tell you what the name of it is, Canadians Moving to Florida and the USA. If you're not already a member, please join. Again, it's Canadians Moving to Florida and the USA, and I think Jamie's going to drop the link. Everyone's going to get emailed a copy of the webinar with some of the important links as well. So let's move into 90% of Canadians and people from treaty countries from all over the world are coming into the United States under the beautiful E2 visa, which is my favorite. It's what got me to Florida. It's what got Mena to Florida. And so many of our clients are using it as a stepping stone to get into the country. So I'll start a little bit, because I know personally, and we guide a lot of people through the E2 investor visa. So the E2 visa requires that you purchase or create or buy either a franchise or an existing business. And that business has to be a viable business that you are going to partake in. And we need to show the US government that you're serious. And one of the ways that they check if you're serious is how much money you've put behind it. So typically we say that you need to spend anywhere from 80 to 100,000 or more US dollars on that business. So what does that look like? You can buy a business, that's pretty straightforward. There's going to be a sale price. You can create that business, and that's all the pieces that you need, whether it's leasing a space, equipment, furniture, marketing, anything that's considered a business expense would fall into that, including your accounting and legal fees. It all gets put into that. And so number one, we look at the spend. Number two, they look at who you are as the petitioner. So you have to have a clean criminal background. If you've had an altercation in the past, maybe a drunk driving charge or something when you were 19 years old and a little bit hot-headed, and it was, everything is okay now, then you can do that. We can easily overcome that obstacle. That's not a big deal. So they look at who you are, and basically what happens is when it's usually it's a couple, a family, and if it's husband and wife, for example, one of the spouses will be the principal applicant. And that means that that spouse can live and work in the US if they choose. You don't have to move to the United States if you have an E2 visa. It just allows you to if you would like to. So the principal applicant is one spouse, and then the second spouse would be an E2S, which is an E2 spouse, and that becomes your open work permit. So spouse number one can only work at the business that they have petitioned with. Spouse number two gets an open work permit and has the freedom to do what an American citizen can do work-wise, okay? Any kids under the age of 21 would fall under the E2 as well as E2 dependents, and they would have legal status in the country and they would be able to go to school and live freely with their parents. They will not be allowed to work under E2 dependent. They can only come in as a student. They can go to work, school, or they can hang out, and you're gonna have to pay for them because they can't go to work. The E2, you can get creative. Sometimes we have two families that want to come in on one E2 business. You can do that. You have to be 50-50 owner each. And the spend has to double if there's two families relying on one business. Another perk of having an E2 business is if I'm an E2 business owner, I can hire an essential employee from my country of origin. So if I want to hire a Canadian to do some type of managerial position, I can do that without a labor certification. And so we can help you. We're not just here to, prepare paperwork. We're really here to advise you, guide you, take you through, and come up with the best strategy for you and your family, both short-term and long-term. And then I often get, because I kind of do the business side of things at Maimoni Legal, I get questions like, well, how do I know what business I'm going to buy, or where do I look? We've partnered, as Mena said before, we have third-party professionals who have worked with us, worked with our clients, anywhere from, sourcing out a business, financing, a home, real estate. You're going to have questions about healthcare, schooling. I mean, you name it. They have a joke going around the office. It's like, if you don't know, ask Rocky. She'll figure it out for you.
I haven't even heard that joke.
Yeah, a lot of the there was a couple, she's like, this is totally not what you do, but my husband said, if you're not sure, just call Rocky. I'm sure she has the answer. And they're new to Florida. So we take a lot of pride in that. We want to really take care of you and make sure that everything's taken care of. The E2, how long does it take? A lot of it is dependent on you. You have to, and here's another really important part, you can't say that you're going to spend the money on the business. You have to go out and spend the money on the business. We have to show them source of funds. Where did the money come from? It has to be a legal source. And where did it go? And if we're saying that you're buying this business or you're putting together this business, we have to show where it was spent with proof, receipts, photographs, business plan. It's not so much as saying, but saying and then proving. And so once that's all done, once the petition is finalized and in our hands, we're about 2 to 3 weeks to review, put everything together. Sometimes people think, oh, you just push a button and you're done. No, it's not that simple. The attorneys have to provide their attorney cover letters, review everything. It gets sent to the consulate, for example, in Toronto. And the consulate timing can change, right? We can't control what they're doing. So currently we've seen about 2 to 3 weeks for the consulate to review the paperwork, give us the approval, and then they send us a link. And with that link, you're able to book your interview. And the interviews are about 2 to 3 weeks out as well. All members of the family, including the children, have to appear at the interview. We prepare you for the interview. We go through a mock interview and we make it as seamless as possible. So that's the E2. And Matt, I'm going to give it to you to fill in whatever I missed. I need to take a sip.
I don't think you missed anything. It's a great visa. It allows you to get your social security number. It allows you to build credit. You can buy homes. You can do a lot with that visa. And I've been here for a large duration of this time that I've been in the United States on an E2 myself. And I'm currently applying for EB2 NIW. So I have firsthand experience with a lot of these visas personally.
Right.
It's a great visa to be on, and I encourage anyone who is interested to give us a call. We do offer free 20-minute calls, and I'm sure Jamie can put the link in the chat. You can schedule that online using our Calendly link. The call is not with me. I know that everyone wants to talk to me. But unfortunately, I can't be on 20-minute calls all day. I have to actually do petitions. So if you really want to talk to me, that we can also do a paid 1 hour consultation where we can really dive deep into your scenario and your personal situation.
So the E2 mana doesn't lead to a green card, right?
It doesn't, which is why I'm
But,
now doing EB2 NIW. So
right.
you have
And I
to,
did an EB5.
she did an EB5. So
So
you
let's
have
talk
to,
about that.
about transitioning or
Oh, about the EB5, because a lot of people, I talked to someone today, for example, and I was in the same shoes. It appears very frightening to do an EB5. Because if you don't clearly understand it, you don't have the right guidance, it can be scary. Do you want to talk a little bit about it, or do you want me to?
Sure, I can talk about it. So it's a green card by investment, and basically you're making a loan. There's two ways to go about it. There's regional center and there's direct investment. With regional center, if it's a low employment area, the project that you choose, you would basically meet with a broker. They would let you know all the details of the project, and you have to make an $800,000 investment into the project. The project has to create 10 new US jobs per applicant. And the broker will give you basically all the information you're looking for. How long does my money have to be tied up? Where is it going? What are the risks involved? How long do I have to keep my money there? So all of those questions will be directed to the broker. And then once the investment is made, we receive all the information from the project. We can file for you. And when we file for you right now, if you were born in Canada, you can do the visa's current, which means you can do a concurrent adjustment of status. So you can come to the US, you can be here legally as a visitor, and then you can adjust your status over to pending green card approval, which means after 3 to 6 months, you could have work and travel authorization. Right now, we're seeing approvals at the 8 to 12-month mark. So that's really exciting, and it hasn't been like that in the past.
Yeah.
That's regional center. Direct investment is if you're going to purchase a business or start a business and you're going to invest $1,050,000 at minimum. You have to show that you've maintained or created 10 US jobs. And you have about 2 years to show the job creation element when it's time to remove conditions on the green card. So same thing, you have to invest the funds. There's no broker involved in that. You would just purchase or start a business, invest. Part of that can be real estate that is involved with the business. So for example, if you're going to buy a motel, you're going to buy the land, or you're going to buy a retirement home. That's a great example. You're going to buy a retirement home, you're going to spend 1.5, there's 20 employees, that would be eligible for EB5. So same thing, same amount of wait time. And the reason it's a higher investment is because it doesn't involve the regional center, and it's usually not in a low employment area. So those are the 2 ways you can do EB5. It's very advantageous, like I said, because of the adjustment of status. It hasn't always been like that in the past. When my mom, Rocky, applied, it was 5 years ago. There was no adjustment of status. She had to be here on an E2. It's taken about 4 years for her, 5 years for her green card to be approved. So right now is a different climate. If she were to apply right now, it would have been 8 to 12 months. So
Okay.
the program fluctuates. And so if you're thinking about it and you're really serious about becoming permanent here in the United States, then it's a good idea to explore that route.
Yeah, I just want to share the one I invested in and the reasons I did, just to show you that it's not as scary as it sounds. It was a project that was in Seattle. It was already started, so shovels were in the ground. The company that was developing this project, it was a tall tower, live, work scenario. And the company that was building it was owned by billionaires, and they've basically built up the whole Seattle waterfront. And I liked that. And here's what really clinched it for me. They offered me a personal guarantee on my um, investment. And so I felt really comfortable with that. Fast forward 5 years. The reason it took a lot longer for us is because we went through COVID and, you know, all the delays that happened. But I was able then, after 2022, they made adjustments. So you could adjust your status. So you could literally come down, make the investment, stay in the US, 3 to 6 months, open work permits for the entire family, any kids under 21. It locks their age in when you apply. So even if they're, you know, they turn 21 6 months into it, it doesn't matter. That child would still get the green card with the family. So EB5 is a wonderful way to move to a green card if you like, whether through your own business, like Mena said. And the broker will bring you all kinds of different projects, and you and your family would vet them, review them, and if you felt comfortable, you'd move forward. If you don't feel comfortable, you're under no obligation to continue in that route. So there are a number of different options available, and I think between Mena and I, we've tried quite a few of them, and we've helped, in you know, lots and lots of families go through the different visa processes. So I think that brings us to the conclusion. I know there are all kinds of questions that were popping up. I'm going to answer just a couple quickly. The E2 visa is good originally from Canada for 5 years, and then you can renew it indefinitely every 2 years thereafter. Someone's asking about losing Canadian citizenship. Your citizenship to Canada will never be taken from you. You have to decide to give it up. So it doesn't matter where you go in the world. You'll always be a Canadian citizen. You can live and work wherever, and you can always return back to Canada. So what does change is your residency. So if you're living in the United States for over 6 months in the year, then your residency would change. You'd be a US resident filing taxes as a US resident. That's all that would change. Some people want to know what the fee is. So to have the 1 hour consultation, the 1 hour consultation can be done either with an immigration specialist or with one of the attorneys, either with Mena or with Robert, our other attorney at the firm. The fee to be with the immigration specialist is $250 for the hour. And if it's for the attorneys, it's $350 for the hour. You are welcome to book that and then send in whatever information, your resume, whatever you want to look at. We will go through all of that with you, recommend different options specific to what you're looking to do. And then at the end, you'll receive a written proposal based on 1 or 2 or whatever options apply to you. And then we're not done at that point. Now we've established a relationship with you. The proposals have come out. And then if you need to talk with us again, have some questions, absolutely. We go back and forth until you feel comfortable and know what you're doing. Question about EB5. If you're doing a regional center that is not in a targeted employment area, then it would be $1,050,000 for the regional center as well. Okay, let's see what else. Can I bring my Canadian business to the States and just reopen there, Mena?
No, you have to reinvest.
Under
So
E2.
yeah, under E2, you can have the same idea, but you still have to spend 80 to 100,000.
And what if my business fails?
Well, you can always try to salvage, try to change directions, go with another type of business. We just have to have a plausible explanation when it comes time to renew.
Right, but what if I'm 2.5 years in and my business isn't doing well?
You could change and reinvest as long as it makes sense when there has to be an explanation that makes sense when we go to renew.
Yeah, sometimes people say, well, Rocky, if I buy a business and it fails, I'm going to lose all my money. Businesses have value. So if you buy the business and it's making $100,000 a year, And then, you're not doing so great. Now it's making 80,000 or 50,000 a year. It still has a value. You can sell it. You can always bring in consultants to help you. I mean, I've always been an entrepreneur and been in my own business, and being an employee scares the hell out of me because I can go to work and my boss can come in and say, "Hey, Rocky, pack up, you're done." In my own business, which I haven't been an employee since I was 23 years old, I know if things are happening that are good or bad, or if I have to shift or have to make a change. I just feel more comfortable in that. So there are lots of things that are available to help you as a business owner to grow and improve your business. You just have to tap into them.
Someone's asking if they can open an LLC without a work permit. Yes. You can
We do
open
that
an
all the
LLC.
time.
Yes, we do it all the time. Contact us, we'll help you.
Yeah, we open an LLC for you, then we guide you in getting a tax ID number. And then once you have that, you can open a business account in the United States and you can start. You don't need a visa to open a business. You need a visa to be able to, spend more time here, work on your business, and not have any issues at the border.
Someone's asking about change adjustment status. So if you file an adjustment of status, you're obligated to stay in the physically in the United States and not leave until you are granted a travel document. So usually it takes around 3 to 6 months to get that travel document. It can be longer sometimes. So if you're going to go with adjustment of status, be prepared that you might have to stay in the country for some time.
Well, there's a strategy too around that. We're helping a couple clients do this as well. So we have a couple clients that have a big business in Canada and they want to open and create the same business in the United States. They want to do an EB5, but they don't like the fact that once they're here, if they adjust, they can't travel back to Canada because they still have their business there as well that they have to take care of. And they also don't like that the travel, and they would be stuck not being able to work for 3 to 6 months. So what we're doing with, in some situations, you can start on an E2. You have legal status to go back and forth, and then we can do EB5. Instead of doing an adjustment of status, we can do consular processing. And when your green card is ready, you go to Canada, you go to the interview, and you re-enter under that status. So like I said, we can strategize and help you depending on what the scenario is. Someone's asking if their wife can open a salon. The investment would be around 40,000.
Wouldn't be a substantial investment. So it's got to be $80,000 to $100,000 investment.
So what if I only need 40,000 to open my business? What can I do to, increase my expense?
Prepay your rent, hire a marketing company, overbuy equipment and supplies. So maybe, few more cases of shampoo.
Yeah, and even with the rent, remember the landlord's not going to know who you are. And in many instances, they want 6 months of rent up front anyway. So let's say your rent's 2,000 a month. So he's at 40,000. He pays for a year. Now we're at 64,000. He pays some legal accounting fees. He creates a website. Before you know it, you're at 8,000.
We forgot to mention our money back guarantee.
Yes. How could we forget?
Somebody said 80 to 100. What if I get rejected? Okay.
Right.
So we've never had a denial for E2.
Right.
If you get denied and it's our fault, so it's nothing that you did, it's our fault, you get all of your attorney fees back. We have a money back guarantee. And if you get rejected and you've already purchased a business, for example, you would just sell that business. But like I said, the odds are pretty slim. In Toronto, for example, the odds of approval are approximately 94%. So when do we see denial? We see denial when somebody has a criminal record and they didn't tell us. We've never had it now, but these are the scenarios of which you might. Criminal record and didn't disclose. That's usually a reason for denial. They say the wrong thing at the interview. So sometimes they'll try to trick you into saying that you worked in the United States when you're not allowed. Or the money came from a fraudulent source and they uncover that. So like I said, never had a denial. Our clients have listened to us. And in the event that there is one in the future and it's our fault, we will give you all of your attorney fees back.
And remember, sometimes people will buy businesses and it's contingent on the visa being approved. If you can find a seller that's willing to do that, then that's really zero risk, really zero risk. If you buy the business, let's say the seller's not willing to do that, the business is still yours. You can't work there. So you'd have to, put management in place, or again, like Mena said, guys, there's a recipe to doing this. We're not going to file if we don't think you have a really good chance of being approved. And there's certain specific things. We will work hand in hand with you. We do our business plans in-house as well. Nothing is outsourced. So the whole team comes together and, we file. Someone was asking here too, if I'm doing an EB5 visa, do I have to have my own funds or can I get it from somewhere else?
So you can have a loan
Yeah.
with the EB5. There's certain loans that you can do with that. So it doesn't have to be all of your own money. It can be a loan or it can be a gift. I mean, that's pretty rare. But maybe you have a very generous mother or father wants to gift it to you, or a friend, I don't know. But yeah, it doesn't have to be all of your own money.
Okay, so someone's asking about escrow. This is important. So let's say you find a business and it's $200,000. And you, in the process of buying that business, you put a deposit. It's like buying a house. And then you start your due diligence. And then you're happy with it and everything's good. So you have a closing date. So let's say the closing date is December 1st. We do business law at Maimoni Legal as well. We can hold your escrow. That means it's in our trust fund waiting for the closing date to come. And then if you pay the whatever's left, the 180,000 into escrow, your funds are then at risk and we can file for the visa. And if we time it properly, you should have your visa before the business closes. The other option of doing it is to wait until it closes and then we file. So you have a couple of options you can do either way. Okay, I don't know if there's anything else. Someone's asking about what the 20-minute call is about. The 20-minute call is an opportunity for you to speak with us, a member of our team, find out a little bit more about us, and then you get to share what you're looking to do and what information potentially would be, specific to your certain situation. At the end of the 20-minute call, you have an option. The person you're speaking to can send you a proposal if you're pretty clear on what you want to do. We can follow up afterwards if you have questions on that proposal. Or then, you can obviously move towards having a consultation, or you can just say, I'm good, I'm ready to go. I want to do an E2, and we can start to onboard you that way. So let's see if there's any other. Does Rocky take calls? Yes, somebody wants to talk to Rocky. Absolutely. I don't do a lot of the 20-minute calls anymore. I just don't have time. At the beginning, it was just me doing all the 20-minute calls. I'll give you my email address. It's Rocky, ROCKI, at maimonilegal.com. If you email me, not everybody, because I can't get to everyone. My husband does a lot of the initial calls as well. We have a couple of other team members, and they're fabulous too. But if you want to specifically send me some information, I'd be happy to help you. Can I partner with a US friend for an E2?
Yes, but you have to be at least 50% owner and you still have to invest the minimum on your side.
Everything stays exactly the same. Sometimes we hear, well, my brother has a business in the US. I'm going to buy half of it from him. Okay. The business has to get appraised. It has to show that it's worth 200,000. And then you have to take out 100,000 and you got to pay whoever that person is for that half. So there's no way around it, guys. I mean, if you're looking to do this, you have to do it properly and with proper guidance, and we'd be absolutely able to help you. What if the E2 business is management consulting? We've done a few of these. So there are professionals who don't need a whole lot to get their business going. But that doesn't mean that you are okay to only invest 10 or 20,000. You would have to get a space, a commercial space, outfit that space, computers, desks, marketing, website, pay the landlord up front. There's a way of bringing up the spend as well. And someone's asking if a HELOC is okay for funds. Yeah, you can use your home equity line of credit because that's your money. And if you're pulling it off a property in Canada and then you're using it to fund your E2 business, that's fine. We would just have to show exactly where it came from. I don't know. Is there any other that I'm missing? So there's lots of tax questions. We are not, yeah, we're not CPAs. We do have some wonderful connections with cross-border CPAs that can assist you. I can tell you that Florida, the state of Florida does not have personal state income taxes, so the tax brackets are very, very low. You're just paying the federal taxes. Can you still have Canadian income with an E2? So, yeah. E2 doesn't mean you're abandoning Canada. Whatever you're doing in Canada, you can keep doing it if you want to. You can open a business, you can live in the US, you don't have to. We have lots of clients who have big businesses in Canada and they've opened in the US. They put a manager in place and they remain in Canada. They come and go as they choose. They make sure that they don't stay more than 6 months in the US because then they would be considered a resident for tax purposes. You do get your social security number with an E2, which is same as the social insurance number. You can start building credit. There's certain things that are available to you when you have legal status in the US that you wouldn't have if you were just here as a visitor. So
Well,
I think
that brings us to the end. I think so. Like we mentioned, please go ahead and book a call with us. If you'd like more information or want to just chat, you can email myself or Rocky. My email is mena@mymoneylegal.com. Or you can call us. I'm putting our phone number. And we would be happy to help you. It's case by case, so please don't hesitate to reach out. We love speaking to you all, and it's an absolute pleasure to do these things for you.
oh, you're so nice. I'm so proud of you. I raised a nice daughter.
Proud of you too.
Everyone thinks I'm your sister, by the way.
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Yeah, listen, guys, it's a real honor to be able to assist everyone. Someone said to me today, oh, you guys were the guinea pigs. And I said, sadly, yes. I know now how to transfer money from Canada to the US and save all kinds of money. I learned the hard way. We know we can help you with healthcare. We learned the hard way. The first 2 years, I was like spinning my wheels. I didn't know what to do.
So confused.
Confused. Real estate, buying a business, finding a good broker. Like, we're really here to help you through the whole process. And you've got all of our contact information. Thank you for being here tonight. We hope that you have a wonderful rest of evening and we look forward to talking to all of you soon. Okay? Ciao. Good night.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.